Good morning or good afternoon. Your job is going to be to watch this video, pausing it frequently to give yourself enough time to take notes. We're going to be reviewing complementary and supplementary angles, as well as how to find a missing angle in any type of polygon, triangle, or beyond. Make sure your notebook is out, and if you need to go grab that right now, pause the video now so you can grab your notebook and your writing utensil. You'll be taking notes, following along, solving each problem as you go. What notes you take today, you can use to help you on your quiz that we'll be following when we come back to class after your independent work time. Let's start off by reviewing complementary angles. So the first thing you're going to want in your notes is you want to make sure that you know which one is complementary angles. And so the definition is the sum is 90 degrees for complementary angles. Once you have that written in your notebook, pause if you need to. We're going to go ahead and we're going to solve for the missing. When we know an angle is a set of complementary angles, meaning the two angles together, or more than two if it was broken into more than two, equal 90, you can start with the total, which is 90, and subtract whatever value you're given. In this case, it ends up being 75. So you can subtract that 75, and then you'll have the value that's left, which is that missing or mystery value. So if we go ahead and we subtract, we would find that the value is 15. You go ahead and try this next one on your own. Pause if you need some time. You're solving for the value of x. Since you have 68 degrees given, and you're starting off with complementary angles, 90 degrees, you can go ahead and solve by subtracting from 90, and you find that the value of x is 22. Pause anytime you need some more time, especially if you're writing down these angles and putting these angles into your notebook. Supplementary angles means a sum of 180 degrees. Like Mr. Martin always says, what's up 180? This is a great thing to have in your notebook. And then you can use your supplementary angles, the total equaling 180, all the way from one side of the angle to the other, 180 degrees. Use your supplementary angles, subtract from 180 to get the missing value of 103. Go ahead and do the same thing for this next problem, solving for the value of x. Pause your video if you need some time to work. Each supplementary angle makes 180 degrees, this nice straight line. Let's subtract the 130 degrees. If we subtract the given angle of 130 degrees from 180, you'll be left with 50 degrees. X has a value of 50 degrees. I hope you were able to find that on your own. Let's move on to finding another set of supplementary angles. This angle that you're searching for is called angle DOC. That means it starts at D, goes over to O, and then goes up to C. Find the measure of angle DOC. We know that this whole supplementary angle all the way from one edge of the straight line to the other is 180 degrees. The parts that are already used are 60. So let's get rid of that because that's already used. And a 30. Let's subtract that. After you subtract the 60 and the 30, you're left with only 90 degrees. So the area that's missing is 90. Right here, measure of angle DOC equals 90 degrees. We have two more problems to work on. Each of these are complementary and supplementary angles, but in word form. A great idea would be to actually draw out the example problems in your notes and to write in the angle measurements so you could take a look at those. I'll give you some time. Why don't you pause this video, and when you are done, you can unpause it and check to see if you found the correct angle of measure B and the correct measure of angle X. Go ahead and pause and work on these two problems. All right, let's take a look at the first one. So if angle A and B are complementary angles, I know they have to make 90 degrees. So if I subtract the given angle of 41 from the 90 degrees, which is complementary angles, the angle B is left at 49. Go ahead now and solve for angle X. Angle Y is 120. Now that you've solved, you'd put it on pause before. You know that supplementary angles are 180 degrees. So we start off with 180 degrees. And angle Y is already using up 121 of those degrees. That lets you know that there are only 59 degrees left for angle X. 59 degrees. We know that the sum of every triangle is always 180 degrees. Solve for angle A. Every triangle is always 180. Solve for angle A. I'm going to put 80 and 60 together because those angles are already used to give me 140 degrees. 140 degrees are already used. Starting with the 180 of the triangle leaves me with 40 degrees. Angle A is 40 degrees. Now in the next question, this one's a little trickier. Go ahead and pause the video, draw the picture, make sure that you include the U and the V, and then unpause so you can hear and follow along in your notes to find the explanation of finding U and V. All right, so if you have now drawn this in your notebook, let's start with U. The value of U, and I noticed that this right here is a supplementary angle because it's along a straight line. So I'm looking for the value of U. That's this missing part of the straight line. 180 from the straight line minus 157 because that's part. And we'll go ahead and solve for U, which is only 23 degrees. It's a very small angle. 23 degrees is all that's left from the 180 degrees. Now that we know that the triangle has those two angles, a 23 and an 81, you can use the triangle theorem. Start with the 180, subtract 23, part of the used up angle, and you're left with 157. So then start over again with your 157, subtract the 81, which has also been used up from the angle, and angle V, all that's left, is 76. Angle V is 76 degrees. What is the sum of the interior angles of a triangle? This one we know. Every triangle has a sum of 180. Make sure that that is in your notes. Pause if you need time to get this in your notes. Triangles always a sum of 180. What about a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-sided figure, which is a pentagon? What is the sum of the interior angles for a pentagon? We use the theory, the number of sides minus 2 times 180 to tell us how many degrees are on the inside. So if the number of sides is 5, we're going to subtract 2 and then multiply it times 180. 3 times 180, and you can calculate 3 times 180 would give you 540 degrees. The sum of this 5-sided shape, the interior angles, are 540. That means every single angle added together on the inside must combine to get a sum of 540. Every pentagon is the same, 540. Triangles were 180. Quadrilaterals were an additional 180, so 360. Pentagon, 5-sided, 540. Hexagon, an additional 180, which brings us up to 720, and so on, each time adding an additional 180. Now that you know that pentagons, was this a pentagon? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pentagons have 540. Find the measure of the missing. All right, now that you've had a little time to work, you're going to go ahead and solve for the value of x. So we have a 5-sided polygon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know the number of sides, which is 5 minus 2, always minus 2, times 180 will give us the sum of the interior angles. So 3 multiplied by 180 degrees gives us a sum of 540 degrees on the inside angles. Now I'm going to go through and I'll use my calculator to total up all of these angles that are given. 100 plus a 112 plus a 113 plus a 117. I have 4 angles and I need to total them all. And after using my calculator, I get a total of 442. Now I know 442 degrees have been used up already in this interior angles of this pentagon. So if I start with my 540 that I'm given, all of the angles, and I subtract the 442 that have already been used up, I am left with, 98 degrees. So the measure of angle X is 98 degrees. Now you're going to go on after this, now that you've completed this, and you'll be ready for your quiz, which we'll be taking together in class. When you're taking your quiz today, you will be able to use a calculator. You can use any notes that you took. Friend help is not allowed. You'll submit your quiz after you're done, and then you'll be done with math for today. But we'll talk about that when we all meet up, when it is time for our class to start.